when people ask you what jiu-jitsu is, I've had this like battle for years and years, mate, but it's becoming a little bit more popular. But when people ask you what jiu-jitsu is, what do you tell them?
So this is the first time I've ever had to discuss the philosophy, like a deeply like existential crisis about my hobby. I think jiu-jitsu is a martial art created for the ability to take an opponent down and submit them, ideally pretty quickly. And if it was to be actual, like if you were actually fighting for your life, it would be something that you could use pretty effectively to stop an attacker, would be what I'd say it is. It's something you're able to, from standing position, you should be able to take someone to the ground, and from there, from whatever's presented, choke them out or break a limb. That's what it would be. And you're simulating that in a consensual environment when you go to a jiu-jitsu gym, would be what I'd say it is.
Yeah.
So you don't say anything like it's just basically two autistic people going at it until one of them chokes the other one. No.
Heavily implied. It's a pretty fucking autistic sport, man. Like
Mate, autism is strong.
Yeah, you've got to be a nerd, I think, to want to do it, because for the first 6 months, especially in my experience, I know you do a lot for like actual practitioners. I'm just some dude who turns up hungover, and I'm battling quitting smoking, and then I'm turning up to a gym and giving it a go. But I think it attracts something that you want to get better at it, and it becomes a puzzle. It becomes this, how do I do that? How do I get out of this? And the first 3 to 6 months, you do just find yourself stuck under people, and then eventually one day you almost get somewhere, and that's that you're then chasing that, like, I almost got, and that happens throughout. At the moment I'm focusing on leg lock entries. I'm really trying to get leg locking down and playing like certain types of guard, butterfly, single leg X, all of these sort of things. And it's like I'm a beginner again. And then the other day I did something where I was able to, use butterfly, get into a sweep and then start going, and then I screw up like the ankle lock or the heel hook, and you go, but this is like I'm starting again and getting someone down and getting an arm bar or getting a rear naked choke. But it's just a more advanced version of that. And I think you do that until black belt and then realize you've wasted a load of your life.
Yeah, it's kind of true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, mate, you say about the nerds and the tism, because I first dabbled with jiu-jitsu probably like 20 years ago. And certainly in the UK, it was a completely different crowd back then. It was full of like scary doormen that were just full of steroids. I mean, athletes are still full of steroids now, but most of them don't work the door. And over time, you've kind of seen this transition where I think all the nerds have probably chased all the scary meatheads out of the sport because they kept breaking their legs or something. But it's a funny one, mate, because when I started, it was a very kind of dark art. It was very like underground sport, and now it's become like super popular.
The reason it's super popular though is because you can do it fairly safely every day. It's really fun. It's human chess, isn't it? It's just fun, You're just gonna just try and kill each other in a controlled way.
Yeah.
It's also quite a bougie martial art. It's not a working class sport. You've got to go in and buy a gi. You've got to pay a membership. You've got to, and the people who are going to, there's a jiu-jitsu gym in Clapham that's opening up that I've heard, and I think it's Fionn Davison's opening up, and
yeah,
and it's going to be like £300 a month. Which, like, look, for the level of skill and the level of ability that you are being taught, I'm not knocking that. But you have to open that in Clapham in London, where I live, because that's where all the fucking finance bros and who like, yeah, mate, I'm going to go learn a bit of that jiu-jitsu and that. Yeah, it's really cool. And that's a good business model. And the business model then overtakes the difference of where it's some guys in a favela rolling around, like, Valet Tudo style, when Valet Tudo became the thing, because the Gracies and the Valet Tudo guys used to beef all the time. It has got that element where it's a slightly bougie middle class thing now. Brazilian jiu-jitsu, of all the martial arts, I'd say jiu-jitsu is the sort of upper end of the, it's a bit more for the elites. You find out that like some billionaires train, Mark Zuckerberg, all of these kind of people. None of them are going in and doing bare knuckle boxing. They're not doing any of these things. They're going in there, and it's because, like you say, it's a safe environment where you can simulate killing each other.
Yeah, it's definitely moved on, mate, for sure. I mean, like I said, my impression of it when I first ever saw it was quite terrifying, because it was a mixture. It was like old school cage fighting. So it wasn't even mixed martial arts back then. It was just cage fighting. So I kind of like edged in there that way. And Danny came in a bit more recent, about sort of 2.5, 3 years ago. Can you remember when your first like ever exposure to jiu-jitsu was? Like when you first ever saw it and knew of it as a standalone martial art, and what your first impression of it was?
Yeah, I used to train Muay Thai, and I did Muay Thai for like 4 or 5 years, and I was obsessed with Muay Thai. There was a good Muay Thai gym around the corner from me, but then it turned into a bit of a cult, and everyone went a bit nuts.
As they do, mate, as they do.
Yeah. One of them ones where like the guy's name was plastered everywhere. There was you had to refer to him as master. Nice. Went in and bow and cup and all of this stuff. But I was going to the gym there's a gym in Crystal Palace, and they had I think it was the IBJJF had a tournament on, and I just sat there and watched it, and I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Because which is jiu-jitsu, one of the problems with jiu-jitsu becoming a mass appeal sport is a problem is you have to kind of train a little bit to understand the significance of their fighting for a wrist lock. They're fighting for, whereas with boxing, it's that guy's just got to knock that guy out.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is like, now he's going for De La Hiva. You're like, what the fuck?
I think one of the biggest things that like people say is like when someone's on the bottom and they assume that the person on top is winning. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, that guy on the bottom is like, he's definitely winning. They're like, how? Yeah. Like, how? In what world? I'm like, he's fucking winning, trust me. And then they leg lock him, and it's like, that's how.
Yeah, and the tap happens so quick that you kind of go like, oh, right, it just happens. But I was watching this, and I was like, there was this black belt match going on, and everyone was going nuts. And I was like, man, this looks cool. And then eventually, after sort of first... I'd like messed about with it with some people who trained at my Muay Thai place. It was an MMA class, and I'd go to it, and I'd learn how to do a fucking Americana or something, but I didn't really know anything about it. And then the gym I train at now, New Wave, I went and I was training like the Muay Thai classes there, but I was like, I really want to give this a go. So I rang my mate, comedian Dave Longley, who at the time was a purple belt. I think it might have been, he was a purple belt. And I was like, how do you do this? And he's like, mate, you just got to go and get fucked up. And he's like, you just got to go to it and you're going to get fucked up. And he's like, don't worry about that. That's part of it. And yeah, I went and I started doing gi, which I no longer do. I don't train gi. But
good luck.
Yeah, I just went to it, and I just in my first class, there was like, when we partnered up, I had to partner up with this like 9-year-old because everyone else was like mates. This 9-year-old was armbarring me. I had this Brazilian. I love Brazilians because they're like, there's no such thing as PC culture in Brazil. And he's like talking us through the armbar, and he's looking at me. There was this one kid I was training with one time who was like 16 years old, and we're armbarring. And this coach is going to me, brother, it's like you're fucking, you're fucking hipping, like you're fucking. You're not going to get this. He child. And you're like, what the hell is this class? Like that you're just allowed to do it. That's not how you're allowed to speak. Like, and I come from this gym where it was like gospel songs and no swearing and all of this. And now this loud Brazilian man's telling me to like destroy this guy's arm by fucking it. Yeah, I was like, this sport's cool, man. But yeah, that was it. I was into it.
That first 6 months is such an eye opener, and I think that's the reason though jiu-jitsu is not for everyone, because that first 6 months is such a fucking hard learning curve to just get past it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To stop being battered every day. Like when I first started, I say this all the time, but he battered me, mate, when we first started. Brutally molested me, mate, in a cage once, and in that, I think if you're not willing to take that, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to see the other side of like, when am I actually gonna get out the other side of this? Like, when am I not going to turn up to training and get beat the fuck out of?
Did you find it as well hard as like a bigger guy? So I'm about 97 kg at the minute. I'm like walking around, sort of big lad, and sometimes I'll go with people who are, I would find it difficult at the beginning. Like I'll go with someone who's smaller and I'd feel bad. And oh man, I used to be spazzy as fuck as well. Like I had someone who trained me the other day and they were like, oh, thank God you've chilled out. Like it's weird. But I find as well, sometimes when I go with like people who are a little bit smaller and stuff, is I always sort of would find it a bit, I feel bad where they get to be fast, but I get to be strong and big. And then like, if I pin them, I feel like I'm being a cunt to this like 65 cagey dude, but then he was just like spinning around me. So I'm like, what am I meant to do, man? Like, this is, you've got to use what you've got.
You pin the little fucker and you crush him, mate. That's what you do.
Yeah, mate. We've talked about this a ton, mate, because we're a similar size. Danny's about your weight. I'm like a kilo or two lighter, but yeah, similar size. It fluctuates. And we were, I don't know if you come across Jiu-Jitsu or Chewy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had him on a while back and we were chatting about it because he's a big boy as well. And we said the exact same thing, that, you know, people have attributes, like strength is an attribute. So is flexibility, so is speed. So if I'm not using my strength, am I going to ask the yogi on the mats not to use their flexibility? Sorry, mate. Sorry, I'm trying to pass you, guard. You've got your knee in your armpit, mate. It's not allowed. It's not fair.
No inversions.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. You can't invert, all right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But that's what I mean. There comes with jiu-jitsu, what I also find is there's all these unwritten rules which really should be written, that should be allowed. Like, there is this whole culture of like spazzing out and all of this. And I think when someone's being spazzy, I went with someone the other night, they were grabbing my wrists, grabbing my fingers, pulling and stuff. I think that's when it's that's what it's going to be like in a fight. Like, if you get in a street fight, that's what's going to happen. Someone's going to pull your finger. Someone's going to fucking put a hand on your face and push out and cut you with their nail. They're going to do all of this stuff. Yeah, it's annoying, but you want to come in and simulate fighting. Well, if you ever get in fights, it's never, you know, all of that stuff you see on the, you know, there's Krav Maga that works and all of this stuff, but all of that stuff where it's like, and then I block here and I move here. It's like, that's working on the idea that what happens next that person does. You know, how many times do we see in jiu-jitsu, you have a move you do, you go against someone new, they don't do the counter to it or something. So then you're left in this no man's land of, wait, what the fuck do I do here? Like, because sometimes it's like if you play poker, someone who's new can actually be hard because they don't go by the rule set. They don't go by the system, you know, and they start playing cards they're not meant to play. And in jiu-jitsu, you go, well, if I do this, they're meant to turn here. And then if they don't turn there sometimes or don't do the reaction, I do find, you know, and again, at my low level, you can just be sat there going, oh, shit, I didn't realise what was meant to come next. And that's, you know, we are simulating. We are fighting, but we are also simulating fighting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly how it goes, isn't it? Because with those certain situations, especially someone new or a white belt, there's so many times, mate, where they are just like fucktards, like just going at it, and then you just, I'll just smother them, mate, until they calm down. That's my goal now. Is I'll just get on top, smother them until they calm down, and if they don't calm down, they just get my tits in their face for 5 minutes, and then they just, you know what I mean?
When's the last time you've had one where you've gone with a white belt and they've done something like they've accidentally hit a sweep or something, or like someone new? Have you ever had that where you've gone with them, you got to do something, or like they're going to put a submission, or they go to grab something, you're like, I don't need to worry about that, and then you start going, oh fuck, I need to worry about that. Like, you've had one of them ones where you're like, I hope no one's watching.
Mate, it's normally something done where you've got, I don't know, like side control, and someone just grabs you in a stupid headlock and somehow reverses you, and you're like, that should not work, and somehow they've managed to spaz their way into like a top position. That happens on occasion.
My favourite thing was getting people in lockdown, mate, and then get them an electric chair. And I learned that really early on in my white belt. So when I'd even roll with like higher belts, I'd get them an electric chair and they'd let me get locked down, and I'll be like, I've got you, mate. Like, before they even know what's going on.
There was a lad at my gym who used to do that, get locked down, and then electric chair, and they'd also go for the banana split as well, and that was always like a humiliating one to get tapped by. that was always like a fucking, I would be on the bus home like, fucking, it wouldn't happen in a proper fight. The minute I get beat in jiu-jitsu, I immediately go back to Muay Thai and be like, nah, but in like real life.
In real life, I'd spark him.
my own ego. My fragile little ego, man.
But mate, especially with that move though, like Danny did an interclub comp, and he fought this massive, like, we've got a lot of Royal Marines down here in the Southwest, and he fought this like massive ex-Marine, like he was, I don't know, probably like, I don't know what, about, yeah, I mean, he must have been at least 100 kgs, like covered in tats, like a few scars.
Big though, like tall, like 6'3".
Yeah, he was like the token scary looking dude in the room. And Danny had him first round, did his usual little fucking party trick on him. And the guy was just so horrified, refused to tap, and just blew his ACL out. He's like, well done, mate.
Fucking idiot, man. Like, what? But, like, how did that feel, breaking his ACL? Did you feel bad about it?
Yeah, it sounded like a tree break, mate. I did feel bad. Like at first, you're like, oh, I'm glad, like I beat him because he's a fucking giant. But the next thought is like, fuck, like if that's his ACL, which it sounded like it was something fucking major, like that's a year, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not that type of guy. You know, some people are dickheads. Like, yeah, he should have tapped. Yeah, he should have tapped, but again, I don't know. I genuinely don't know if he knew the danger he was in. That was the problem. You know, I don't know. He's obviously it was like at the end of my white belt, and I was
But I wonder if that sort of position though, for someone who's probably killed people, he probably is sat there in that electric chair thinking, I could just punch you in the face. I'm not tapping for this. It's not a real move.
Yeah, it's not a real move.
And then his knee explodes. Blow you up with a Tomahawk missile from like.
That's it, mate. Mate, I've been double checking my door every night, mate. Since
he should be able to like in theory he could drone strike you, but
he probably could.
I mean that's always. I don't know if I'd have it in me to break someone's arm.
Yeah, that's what I've said to you before. Yeah. It's like I don't know if I'm in that position where they're not tapping and I'm in a super like competition wise and break their arm. I think I probably would in the moment if I had to, but I wouldn't want to. You know what I mean? Where I think some people would want to.
But I don't think you necessarily like go right. I'm going to break your arm. You just keep applying pressure, expecting the tap, and then it breaks.
Yeah.
Because even with that, I'm not sure if you yourself even knew like how bad you could break someone's knee from that position. Because since then you've kind of stopped using it as much.
Yeah, like I'd still use it, but I'm definitely way more wary in training. Yeah. Like in training, I literally don't use it, or if I do, I use it as a bit of a sweep, and I don't put any pressure on it. You know, because I don't want to fucking hurt someone's knee. Because even though I did apply a lot of pressure through it, it wasn't loads. It wasn't like as if I was like, you know what I mean? I just kind of like turned into it, and it just went bang, and I was like, oh fuck, you know. So it's like. You know, yeah, it definitely made me way more. Well, I think fucking around with legs, I love leg locks and shit. And now I realise, like, if you clamp a leg and you get a heel hook, they're fucked. So you've got to have good training partners.
Yeah, I'm careful with the heel hooks and that. We were doing like the other day, we were doing like, you know, entering in, getting a straight ankle lock, then using the straight ankle lock as a sweep over to the heel hook. And I'm fucking careful when I put a heel hook on someone, man, because I'm a big guy. If I look back, you know, I know the move, and if I look back and maybe a little bit too fast, or a little bit, and also, so Owen Flanagan used to teach in our gym, and when I first went, he's like this amazing coach. He's one of the best coaches I've ever trained under. But it was as I first started, so he's there doing like. Here's how you do butterfly guard and single leg gets into all of these things. And there's like 15 checkpoints. And I'm like, how do you forward shrimp? And he's like, you're in the wrong class, but fuck it, stay here. And we were doing heel hooks one time and I was just letting people really put them on me and then tapping. And I was like, dude, the next day I really feel this in my leg because I feel it. And he was like, don't let it get to that point. He's like, you tapped way before that. He's like, no. I would like feel my leg like twinge. He's like, because he was going, it's on, like you can feel it, and then it goes. It just all goes at once. And I was like, yeah, fuck coming back from training, like not being able to walk out of training because you've let someone do that. And I always think with that stuff, like I would rather my coach think I'm a pussy. I would rather people at the gym think I'm a little, because I'd want to be cautious to my training partner who's just, again, I train in the afternoon, which I always call like when you're in like Croydon or something, you're either self-employed or a drug dealer. So everyone's, you know, like their own boss at this point of the, and I don't want to, you know, fuck up some guy's tax here and like, now we can't provide for his family because you had to apply the heel hook a little bit harder because you wanted to get the tap. But on the flip side of it, they should fucking tap. Like you should know the point of get out. You know, when I've had it where I nearly went out on the mat the other day because someone had me in the shoulder. I was trying to get out a head and arm choke, and I was trying to get out of it. And then you know where it starts going like woof, woof, like and the lights start. I was like, I tapped, and I was like, what am I going to go out on the mat in training for? But a little bit of me was like, just fucking do it. Just do it,
like that when we train, don't we?
Yeah. Mate, I don't mind a good blood choke, mate. I think it feels quite nice.
Yeah,
reminds me of those like laughing gas days, to be honest. I start dreaming, mate. I come back a wiser man normally, so it's not too bad.
I haven't been put out yet.
Have you not?
Mate. Yeah, it's a couple of times where I'm close and I'm like, should I just let it go now and just wake up. But I'll probably shit myself with something, mate, and just have a little bit down with the CCTV cameras, you know.
Yeah, there is the danger of soiling yourself, mate.
Yeah.
I had it once where again someone had me in a head and arm choke, and I tapped, and I'd sort of, they were like sort of about my level, and I fucked them up a little bit in the first 2-3 minutes of the round. So it was, you know, that standard of where someone you know, so they're going for it, and I'm in a head and arm choke, and I've tapped, and they haven't realised I've tapped. And so I tapped again, and they didn't realise, and I went, "Oh, you're gonna have to just." I was like, "All right, well, you're just gonna have to try and get out of it." So I've gone to get out of it, you know, put my leg up and go for it, and I've just managed to sink myself deeper into the fucking choke. And then I just remember, like, it was panic because I was like, "Oh my God, they're not letting me out!" And then just this wave of calm. This wave of like I didn't have any emotion or anything, and then it just felt nice. And I went through, and I came out, and for like 4 minutes, I didn't quite know where I was. Like I remember I came back and I was like, "Oh, I'm at Jiu-Jitsu," and then I had to go sit on the side and just kind of like figure out like, why am I here again? Like, what is it? And then I managed to go back and roll, and I was like, all right, cool. But I was like, I wonder how far. I don't think I was like close to dying or anything, but I wonder how long you'd have to be under that choke for like some serious lasting damage to be done.
Yeah, I think it's a while, mate. I think you're pretty safe in any sort of gym environment. But I mean, like I said that I've been doing it for a while. Like I'm so old school with it that we used to we'd get our belts. There was like a small group of us. We get our belts and we just choke each other out.
That's insane.
Why would you do that? You fucking
just to feel what it was like, mate.
No way.
Morbid curiosity, like conditioning, whatever you wanted to call it, mate. Just being young and stupid.
Is that
just
old school mentality?
Just literally choke each other out with them.
Yeah. So we'd like put our hand up, have our hand up, and then we just get like basically a cross collar choke, but with the belt, and then just put each other out with it. But mate, it's some funny things happen when people go unconscious, though, right? So one of the funniest ones that I saw was one of the lads was getting strangled, and he had his hand out here in front of him, and just as he started going out, he started dribbling. So he went to wipe his mouth and then passed out, and he got stuck in this weird like thing where he was kind of doing this, like a dog having a scratch. But it's like he's just got stuck in this part movement pattern and just kind of wedged into it. And the other thing that's really funny is kind of to your point, where when people are out and they've been out for maybe a few seconds, they come around, they're so suspicious. They just wake up and their eyes just look up and they're like, what's going on? And it's normally because I think there's normally like a group of people around you. Someone's got your legs and you just wake up and you're like, who are these people? And you see that as funny, man.
That is funny.
Yeah, it is. You just suddenly, or the last thing you remember is this like light and calm. And the next thing you know, you're just staring at the ceiling. You don't know how long it's been either. I remember that. I just thought, okay, like you could have told me it'd been like a second. You could have told me it'd been 10 minutes. I wouldn't have been able to tell you. But yeah, but I lost all ability to feel any panic. Like that's what I remember about it. It just, and then
it's probably just a mechanism of our body, isn't it? Just to relax and just shut down and be like, you've got to die. Yeah, now.
Well, they say that like drowning is actually as terrifying as it looks. Is actually one of the nicest ways to go.
Well, mate.
Because when you get asphyxiated, like your body just floods you with all these like feel good hormones.
Right.
So it actually feels amazing. Like it feels like an absolute like ecstasy high, but obviously you're dying. So
it's a fucking
that's my worst way to go. That is.
I drive it. Yeah, it's such a big sport. Like it's so stupid. It's I'd rather get, but like I don't mind like when chokes are put on and stuff. And I'm a bit of a cunt, like so because sometimes I go for the rear naked choke, and when you can't get it, so then you put the forearm across the jaw and go for like not a crank, but like
the little mandible choke.
Little face bar.
Yeah, I go for them sometimes just because like someone's not giving me the choke and like someone did it. You know that classic thing. Someone did it to me. I'm doing it to everyone else. So, like the jiu-jitsu pyramid scheme of no, I'm not a cunt. Someone did it to me. And there's actually a lad. There's actually one guy in my gym who I sort of stopped training with. He was a phenomenal fighter. He's really good. But one time we went out, it was when I was getting ready to compete for an MMA in a club, and he threw a spinning heel kick to my head, like in the open sparring, and I was like, dude, are you fucking taking a piss? Like, and he didn't realize why that's mental, which I actually think's worse. Because I'm like, yeah, you can't spin and kick someone in the head in open sparring. Like I know it sounds weird, but it's like, I'm not trying to get CTE for it. He's a big lad as well. It'd knock me. If it connected, it would have knocked me clean the fuck out, which I don't think is a good thing for like Monday night sparring. And he one time we was rolling, and he like took my back, and he again really good fighter, and he just put my knee in my spine and just started like bending it over like it was Bane against Batman. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's like fully fucking illegal. Like you're not allowed to just like knee someone in the spine and break it. And he was like, oh, someone did it to me once, and I was like, yeah, well, you can't break people's spines. That's not paraplegic. Like that's not like it's not like even like, oh, you tapped it. If you don't tap to a leg lock, your leg blows out. All right, there's a year you can recover. That's like my life is over, dude. Like I'm a different person. But I guess it comes to that thing of like you are with strangers and learning each other, you know, there are boundaries and there are these unwritten rules, and it comes back to the thing. And like, I think there has to be things written down. And I think more gyms should say to beginners when they first start, which I wish was what someone had done to me, is like, don't do this, don't do that, because otherwise you're going to actually make like a social faux pas when you're rolling. It's this weird, intimate thing that you're doing. And you're going to go for something like the guy who went for my fingers the other night. He doesn't know. That just makes sense. That's like instinctual fighting. Someone's got my back. Someone's on top of me. Their fingers are there. Why don't I just start pulling their fingers? That's logically, that's evolutionary. It makes sense. And we're fighting. And then, you know, even there, when I'm like, someone's throwing a spinning kick to my head, I'm like, well, what the fuck, you know? And you do have to navigate all this. And I wish gyms got a little bit better in going like, do this, don't do this, don't do that, don't, you know. But I think it's hard. There's so many people coming in and out of places. It's a difficult thing to do.
It's like the hygiene thing as well, mate, isn't it? It's like all the hygiene stuff with your nails, and like I got a bad staph infection from a white belt who's been in our gym once. He had like longer fingernails, and he was doing like a collar and sleeve grip in the gi. And I said, oh, don't put your thumbs into when you grab my sleeve, don't put your thumb in, like you keep it out. And the first thing he'd done, he grabbed my sleeve and put his thumb in and scratched me. Oh. And then I got a staph infection from it. And like, it was so bad, wasn't it? My staph infection, it like my hand blew up and this and that. But, you know, he's never been back to the gym, and, you know, he must have just wanted to try it, whatever. But he looked like a smelly little twat anyway. But it's like, you need to go, like, he should have had like some sort of welcome pack or something saying, look, you need your nails clipped, you need to have a shower, you need to, you know, X, Y, Z. And again, like some rules, like you're saying, like you don't grab fingers, and you don't do this, and you don't do that. And I think it's that age-old thing, isn't it?
Have a shower before you go out, and if you're coming from work or something, fuck on a load of deodorant. Like, you know what I mean? Make sure, because I do know, make sure your stuff's washed. Make sure all of that, like, it's just, yeah. And as well, because I'm quite, always after class, I get back home, have a shower. But when I'm at class, I always like just go wash my hands, because like I've seen like staph infections and that happen. And it's just, I've fortunately never got staph, but I think it's because I train in where I get to do like mainly the afternoon classes. It's quite a small group of people. There's less people coming onto the mats. There's less people sweating everywhere. There's less people getting cut. And my gym's pretty good with that. After every class, hoover, wash the floor, get that done. They're like New Wave. They're very, very, very on it with that. There's a loud Italian man, Christian, who will always tell you that John Jones even washes the mats after class. So there's no excuse for you not to. So, you know, but that's the thing. You've got a gym where people are coming in from other places, and sometimes you have just fucking pure lunatics coming in, man. Like, this is a sport where everyone's got some sort of trauma they're running from, or some sort of trauma. You know, I don't know anyone who's doing fighting. No one comes into this as a hobby or as to make it professional because they're a well-rounded human being. You know what I mean? You've got something wrong with you, and that's fine. Like, that's like my job as well in stand-up. Nobody who's good at it or doing well at it is, you know, going on for the adulation of strangers is, you know, particularly had the best of childhoods. We're just a little bit more pussies than like fighters. Like, we like a beer and a cigarette and a line, so we're not going to go fucking go roll around on like none of it. Like, you know, I like eating McDonald's late at night on the way back from a gig. So you do have people, like I've had it before, where people come in, you have a spar, and I think you find it a bit more in MMA as well. I think Jiu-Jitsu has a nice. You can fuck someone up in Jiu-Jitsu in a way that they never realised they were going to get fucked up, but also doesn't leave too much lasting long damage. Like you're saying, you can just smother tap them, you can just pin them, you can just sweat all over them and like make them have a bit of a shit 5 minutes. But in remember in Muay Thai when someone would first come to sparring and they'd start throwing like overhands and all of these things, and you're like, all right, man. And this other gym, first gym I trained at, if you knock someone out in sparring there, not that I ever did, but I had seen it happen, there was no fucks given. It wasn't, oh, okay, stop the rest of sparring. It was all right, keep going around that. And there was so I saw that happen there. There was a very good fighter there named Wilker Barros who I watched a guy get a bit heavy with his hands with him one night. And, there's that thing in sparring of if I'm going with a brown or a black belt, I might not try turn up to 100% because then they'll turn their 100% onto me. Maybe if I'm getting somewhere, it's because they're letting me work something. So don't take the piss with it, and this guy was sort of not even an amateur fighter and going up against good pro and threw his overhand. And I watched like everyone did that thing in like striker sparring where you start sort of stepping away because you're all reading matter fucking go down. And he threw this knee, and I swear to God, I just heard this lad make a noise like this, like, ah! Like that was the noise that I heard, and just watched him on the floor for like just 10 minutes, guys, and we just had to like keep sparring around this like almost like this dying lamb. Fucking hell. And then you go home and you tell your girlfriend that or something, and she's like, "What the fuck's wrong with you?" For fucking like.
But I think that's the appeal in it, jiu-jitsu over something like Muay Thai or something like that, because you do get your nerds and just regular people. You get dads and people like me who I don't want to be knocked out, mate. You know what I mean? I don't mind being choked out or whatever, but I don't want some 20-year-old mate just kicking me in the fucking head. I just don't want it. I'm 35 now, mate. I like it that you can do jiu-jitsu and it's fairly controlled. And if you train in a good place like we do, it is pretty controlled. It's more about technique than it is about killing each other. And it's just a good fun vibe, isn't it? And learning about jiu-jitsu is the best bit for me. You know what I mean? Like you're saying, you like working on leg entries, mate. I'm like, I've definitely got a bit of jiu-jitsu autism, mate, where I'll just be like, right, I'm going to keep spamming. No matter how much I get fucked up, I'm going to keep spamming this entry. It's just trying to get it on everyone until I can get it.
Yeah, I find, I'm really not that good at it. Like, I'm just like someone who turned up long enough that they gave a blue belt, essentially. And I'll be that till like, I'll get a black belt because I'm consistent. I'll keep training, but I'm not going to ever be any good at it. Like, I'm not, it's all, and I'm aware it's all relative. There is that thing of like the 21-year-old blue belt on the mat who's fucking lifting 3 times a week, watching his macros, his calories, training 7 times a week is going to be probably the brown belt 45-year-old dad who's just getting a few sessions in here and there where he can. Yeah. Like that, it is all relative in the belt system. But yeah, I just love that you go down there and you get to have this like, there's people you have good roles with. There's sometimes, and that thing where you're learning something like when you first start looking at leg lock entries and all of these things, you're like, how the fuck is anyone ever going to do this? And then just slowly and surely you get a lot better at it. And it also, one thing that helped me with the transition, stand up, when you see the way in one thing, you see it in all things. The transition in stand up kind of similar to, it helps with jiu-jitsu because you understand you can't just watch everyone else. You only can focus on yourself. Someone who you think you're better than is going to get further than you. Someone who you think is way better than you is going to stop at some point. You can only focus on yourself. And there was a guy I first started training with, Mids. We basically started on the same day, and he trains over at London Grapple now and is like teaching classes and stuff. But he was a professional CrossFit athlete. And I remember, like in my first class, they were like to us, like, don't bench press. If you're in side control, don't bench press someone off you. And then the coach went to him, "You can though." He's like, "You're an athlete. Like you can do that." And that's for these guys who aren't athletes. It's very, and he'll just like, within like a year, he was, or less than a year, he was a blue belt, and I was just like, fucking hell. And then, he comes back and teaches at my gym at times and all of this stuff. And it's like, oh, yeah, we started at the same time, but he's just dedicated himself more, understands it more, and also has a background in sport and physio and all of these things, so gets what he's meant to be doing. So the idea that it would be really arrogant of me to be like, how's this guy further than me? When he's, it is a meritocracy at time, jiu-jitsu. He's put in more time. He's giving it more effort. And that's why he's further along. And I think, I'm fortunate that I always keep it as a hobby where it doesn't matter if someone's doing better than me because it doesn't matter. This just matters to me. You know, when I see people who want to be professional, who want to make it a career, I look at them and I'm like, oh man, this is like a dark place to be. I don't know if you have that people at your gym who are like trying to make a career out of it, and you're like, I see this in stand up a lot where you're like, you just haven't got it, man. You just haven't got the it factor for it.
Yeah, I think you see it, mate. Our gym's pretty good, to be fair. It's pretty chill, but I've definitely trained at gyms before where you see it. And I think, like, just going back to some of the people that you see on the mats and some of the sort of feels that you get from some people, I find that when you've got, I don't know, someone who's got a few bits going on outside of jiu-jitsu, they've got an actual life, they've got a career, they've got a family, they've maybe achieved stuff in life and are doing other things, they're typically like the better training partners, I find. Whereas either the aspiring athletes who are just so fucking hardcore, they can't understand how normal people like perceive the energy, but also people that maybe, and there was a period in my life where I was probably a bit like this, where out off the mat, they're a bit of a loser. They haven't got much else going on. Yeah. They haven't really achieved anything. They're doing shit in their career. Like they you know, the relationships are a bit turbulent. So their whole identity is like jiu-jitsu. So they put so much weight and stock into being good at jiu-jitsu. They'll just try and murder everybody on the mats and try and win rounds. And I think when you get either like that sort of person or like you want to be competitors who just think you have to just murder everyone and win, that's when you just end up with these absolute nightmares that try and, you know, sort of rip your arms off or kick your eyebrows open or whatever it is.
Yeah, I've been in this fortunate position where through my job and like my low level celebrity, but having trained jiu-jitsu, I then get invited to places that, you know, some people would love to, you know, go to, like up to like Knots MMA to train with like Shane Curtis and, you know, trained with like Owen and stuff like that. And the thing I've always sort of found the further along is that age old thing in martial arts, the more better someone is, the more complete they are, the more chill they are, you know, the more cool they are. And I've had that with, you know, when I'm on the road and I go train, like I trained at BJJ up in Glasgow. Don't know if you've heard of it. That's where Mark McQueen trains out of and people like that. Yeah. And fucking hell, man. Like I went there and like I turn up after like I've done a gig in Glasgow. I've had like maybe 4 or 5 pints the night before, got up, had a bit of breakfast, have a coffee, walk over. And I got there and I was just like, oh man, like, oh, these boys, they've got like a serious group of boys there. I remember Marcus, the guy who runs the gym, came up to me and he was like, how hard do you want to train today? And I went, don't put it on me, bro. I was like, I'm not Bruce Lee, man. I'm just.
Mate, it's nice they ask, though. It's nice they ask.
Yeah, I'm coming here, I'm putting an Instagram story up, so it looks like I've done more than I have. Then I'm fucking off. That's my. But that, yeah, I've seen people. You know, I see it a lot in comedy, like. Comedy, there's this really cool thing in comedy where the people I think, you know, have the best time in stand-up are people who sort of there's this bit from the open mic, like the hardest time in comedy, which is very similar to jiu-jitsu, is almost like a blue to purple belt thing in comedy where you're not good enough to be on the professional big gigs like the Glees, the Comedy Store, the Top Secrets, these sort of quite big clubs. Because if you go there, you get shown up, like you're going to stand out. But you're too good to open mic. You're too good to go back to doing 5 spots in the back of some pub somewhere. And so you're in this weird world where you're not quite there yet, but you're not there and it's harder to get better, which is kind of similar to like blue belt in a way where you've got a couple things you do well, but now you need a load of things that you do well to get to that next level. And the people who are the happiest, the people I meet in stand-up are just like, oh, this is just cool that I get to do this. I'm not looking to make a career out of it. I'm just seeing where I can get to with it. And the people who are the most miserable are like bitter people who I know who are doing very, very well, selling out like 1,000-seat theatres and stuff. And they're still bitter because they're like, I want more, which you kind of need to have that drive a little bit. And it's funny to watch that sort of translate over to jiu-jitsu. You'll meet some people who are like, losing their fucking mind because they didn't win Grappling Industries or something. And you're like, man, you paid 80 quid to enter a fucking tournament for, well, let's face it, a massive money laundering event. And then you've gone in like, and you're not a pro jiu-jitsu. You're not like this isn't you're not some ancient samurai whose like honor has been disgraced. You fucking drove it, like, and parked up outside, like, and then came in and waited. Like, there's this, you know, you stop, and it's like that Craig Joe thing. You know, all these people you see who come to jiu-jitsu, they do a few sessions, and suddenly they're like, their picture on Instagram is of a panther stalking something, and you're like, bro, like, you come to the gym, you roll on the floor with men, all of which probably have another fucking job to pay for this side thing that they've got going on, and you're just simulating this fighting experience. You know, just let it be this cool, dumb, nerdy thing. I think when I see people get that deep into it, I'm like, oh man, you need a fucking girlfriend or a boyfriend. You need a life. You need someone. Like, I don't know if you've had it. Like, I go back to my missus sometimes, or like girls that was, you know, like, and you start telling them about a thing that happened at jiu-jitsu, and the level of like they couldn't give a fuck really brings you back down to earth. That's what I always find, you know, the level of, and you're like, oh yeah, and then I was going for Ashi, and they're like, oh cool, right, yeah. And then you sit there and like, oh yeah, this is like a sport that gets you in shape but doesn't get you laid at all. This is what this sport is.
You just get fucked up ears and bad limbs, mate. Mate, I always think that though. I say it all the time. Like, outside of those fucking walls, mate, at that gym, no one gives a fuck. Like, no one cares. No one cares, mate. As soon as, like, people think they walk around and, like, you know, we've had it before with like egos and all sorts of shit in the gym and thinking they're like God. And then literally out of that tin building, no one cares. You ask a regular bloke next door who's a car mechanic, does he care who the black belt is or the fucking brown belt or the competitive purple belt? Don't care. Literally, it doesn't matter.
Belts are only good for like as well. I think for like layman's outside of jiu-jitsu, so like you can just explain to someone, like, because belts are insanely complicated. I don't really understand the belt system. Nobody really understands the belt system, but I think it's good that it exists. But you know, I'd use the example earlier. I think it's good to go. You know, if someone goes, "Oh, you do jiu-jitsu," and you go, "I'm a black belt," it's then they're like, "Wow," but they then think you're like some mystic levitating person, and then really you can be like, no, I've just been going long enough. They just had to give me one eventually.
Yeah, mate, the belts in jiu-jitsu, though, are funny, man. I mean, I remember, again, when I was a bit younger doing jiu-jitsu and I was a bit more hung up on belts. And it was partly because I can remember, I don't know, I've been training. I did a bit of, like I said, when I came in, it was a kind of cage fighting, kind of a bit of MMA type jiu-jitsu. So it wasn't really specific jiu-jitsu. So I did that for, I don't know, for maybe 18 months or so. And then I started like doing gi jiu-jitsu for about maybe 2 years, and I was still a white belt. So my mates in the office knew that I'd done this thing for like the best part of 3.5 years at this point. And they go, "Oh, so are you a black belt now then?" I've been, no, I'm a white belt.
4 stripes.
Yeah, Thomas, 2-stripe white belt. But then they'd be like, "All right, yeah, my kid's been doing taekwondo for 18 months and he's a black belt. Why aren't you?" And I'm like, "Fuck off, mate." Like, and it's just a weird one, I think, because it takes so long to get between the belts. Like, you have to let go of like the belts being a thing other than just a bit of fabric, because they literally turn you mad, I think. I swear.
Yeah. I knew I was getting my blue belt when I was going to a grading, because one of the coaches had gone to me, "Can you come to a gi class so we can give you your fucking blue belt?" It's like, we wanted to like make a thing of it. And he's like, "You never come to gi. We want to give you a fucking," and I was like, yeah. And then I still never went. So I went to the grading, like, knowing I was getting my blue belt. And I thought, and it was still one of the coolest moments of my life. Like, it was still, you know, I'd like, out of like things I've done is stand up, you know, this is up there, like this cool thing where I got my blue belt. And I then look at like purple, and I'm like, I'm not ever going to allow myself to be like, I should be a purple belt, because I'm like, that's a fucking hard belt to get. Like, you have to earn that. That should really be earned. And the same with a blue belt, but purple I think is really earned. And that's what I like about no gi, is you just get on the mat and you kind of don't look at the fabric. You look at who looks tough, who looks hard, who looks comfortable, who looks like they've been there before when you go to different gyms, and you have to deal with that, you know, because usually you can lose to someone and you know, there's the thing, I'm the worst for this after no gi. Like, how long have you been training? You're trying to work out after just 18 months, and you go, fuck. Like, but yeah, I think people can, but that is like the progression system, I guess. And like, it's good to want something, but I've never found myself I guess at white belt, I did want to get out of being a white belt.
Yeah. I think that's an important one to get out of white belt. I think, like, especially when you get to the end of where you feel like I'm not really a white belt anymore. Like, it's a weird position where, you're on the same level as someone who can't shrimp. Do you know what I mean? Like, at least when you get your blue belt, it's like, right, I know the fundamentals, I know the basics. At least give me that.
Yeah, but I think that's it. You just like you say, it's not that you want to be a blue belt or anything. You just don't want to be a white belt. You want some some representation that you have some skill would be nice. Beyond a couple of fucking tape stripes.
Yeah, exactly that. Because no one gives a fuck as well whether you're a 4-stripe white belt or just no stripes. You know what I mean? You're still just a white belt.
Yeah, I did find white belt, and also people like at the gym, they will talk shit about, like, everyone talks shit about white belts, and then you get a blue belt and find out they're all talking shit about blue as well. Anyway, like blue belts like where they're like, oh, you guys think you're doing well just because you're not a white belt. I guess it just goes up like that up to everything. But I have always thought like purple belt would be the one to get to where I'd be like, wow, like I imagine the black belt is this. A black belt's an amazing thing to get, but on the way there, purple is the one where I go. You really have to know something to be a purple belt. You really have to have trained for a while and have really put some effort, not just some effort in, but listened at a class and applied the technique and actually shown that you're capable of doing that.
Well, it's the intermediate belt, isn't it? So the first two are beginner belts, as they say. The intermediate belt is purple and brown, and then the expert belt is black. So that's effectively it. You should be able to, I think at purple belt, you should be able to know pretty much all the moves, everything, not be able to perform all of them like effectively, but just know what they are, you know what I mean? And be able to hit a lot of them,
Yeah. Which I mean, myself, I'm a long way from it. I haven't competed in a while. So I'm trying to get my weight down to start competing again. Because I did love competing. I love like the mindset of going into the gym of like, fuck, there's some dude like lifting deadlifts right now, like thinking about breaking my fucking arm so he can get a gold medal at this, thing we both paid 50 quid to enter. And I do like that mindset. And then sort of I would like to compete one more, go back in and avenge what happened to me in an MMA in a club where I got eye poked. But I did also get hit the hardest I've ever been hit. And like I've sort of realised my days of like enjoying doing that were behind me. I'm 28 now, and I'm not tough or hard. I've learned that through martial arts. That you could go to martial arts and you can train and train and train. There's just some people who are built different, man, who just enjoy taking a kick to the head. That does something for them. Whereas when that happens to me, I think, oh, fuck, man, I've got a show later. Like the CTE is going to start kicking in, and all my words, all my jokes are going to come out in the wrong order. But I do love it though. It is cool, and it's also I would be a worse comedian if it wasn't for Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. I'd be way worse. It taught me discipline. I applied the same level of logic. Sort of, I took what I've learned from martial arts and kind of applied to stand-up. Really, I get up when I go right. I have a coffee. I go to a certain cafe. I sit there and I write, and that's like drilling. That is drilling. And then when you go do a show, that's sparring. And sometimes you're trying a new joke. It's like hitting a new technique, and you're going to fuck it up the first time. And also, if you get it right the first time, don't think that you now know this. Don't think that you've got it. Like sometimes you have this at shows. You go to a comedy club, you try a new bit, it works. You're like, oh, and then you stop working on it, and you go back to it. You do it the second or third time, and it bombs because you're not doing it with the excitement or the adrenaline that you did it with the first time. So you have to go back and rework on it. And it's exactly the same as like drilling and hitting a move during a roll and all of these things. And there's some clubs like Top Secret that I play all the time. I'm really comfortable. So that's like sparring with someone in my gym who I know. And then there's other places you go which you have to challenge yourself a little bit more, and it might be outside of London. It might be I go up to Liverpool and do something where suddenly I'm not local and I've got their neighbours. I've got who's this fucking southern guy coming up here, and it just makes it, and you can just apply what you've taken from a jiu-jitsu gym and add it to stand up or whatever it is people do. I think there is that sort of life lesson of like it helped me realize how to learn things and how to do things properly. So that's why I do it. It's not so I can go out there and fucking win a street fight and all that. These are things. It is cool. It is cool being able to do that, but like not just so I can like rip someone's arm off or anything like that. It's actually applicational to my life. So it's not just I'm never gonna. I'm not going to win grappling industries because I'm not going to put the time and effort into it. That's, you know, and I'm all right with that. I'll go there and get body slammed by some guy and then go home and go, all right, well, let's try turn that into a win some other way we can.
Yeah, and that's mate. It's fair, mate. And I've noticed that as well. I don't do comedy, but just in like normal jobs that I've had, just that discipline and also as well like the I find the ability to like accept criticism and take on new ideas and collaborate. I find that I'm much better at that because I'm kind of, you know, used to being the nail a little bit, you know, in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So I don't need to be right all the time. I don't need to always be leading the way. I'm happy to kind of concede that I'm sort of wrong or that maybe things could be done better and differently, and always happy to learn from everybody as well, which is definitely, I think, a trait that I found through martial arts, 100%.
Yeah, it's good for me because I was like a fat little nerd in school as well. Got picked on all the time. And then I guess there's some bit of me trying to appease that inner child, like learning a thing where you go in and go, well, I'm going to make myself good at fighting. And then, you know, like Dunning-Kruger effect that it is, you very quickly, like whenever I've been in like situations where like maybe at a comedy show or something, or so people are very drunk, people can act up. And being in situations where things have like gone a bit awry, I always stand there and think, what the fuck does this person know to have this attitude? Like they must know something. Like you wouldn't walk around, and then a lot of time you find out they don't know anything, and that's why they have that attitude. Whereas you look at some people in your gym, you're like, no, that guy just goes about his day, and like nobody knows if he wanted to, he could just pick you up. This is like some small dude, you know, very unassuming, could just pick you up, slam you on the floor. And you have to hope the police arrive in time to fucking taser him off you because he could just do whatever he wanted to. Like that guy could just molest you and there's nothing you're doing to stop him. Like he's going to fuck you up. And that sort of makes that, you know, I think that thing to it adds like a level of like, man, you shouldn't talk shit to people because you just don't know what they're capable of. That's what I also find like very... if you have the right attitude, it can be very good for that quick like learning. Though I do think there are people in gyms where I think we do have this sort of, oh, come in, it will help your ego and all of that. There are some people who come in and then they learn how to fight. And, you know, I've never done steroids, but I had a mate who did steroids and he was like, basically, he's like, it exacerbates who you are. So he goes, if you're a dickhead, you're going to become more of a dickhead. But if you're sound, you're just going to be more, he's like, if you're going to get roid rage, because you're an angry person. That's not just down. And I was like, all right. And I think jiu-jitsu has a bit of that as well. Like you can come in, if someone's an arsehole and then you teach them how to, you know, rip people's limbs off, they're now an arsehole who knows how to rip someone's limbs off. They've got that power to it. And I have seen people like that. There are people I sort of keep, well, not at my gym, but I had places I've trained at before, like especially with Muay Thai and stuff. I've always been a bit like, oh, fuck, now this guy, yeah, let's not teach this psychopath how to, you know, throw a roundhouse.
Yeah, mate. You definitely see it. Mate, what came first then? Was it comedy or was it like Muay Thai?
Oh, I started boxing when I was 15, but then a few months later, after that, when I was 16, I started, about a year later, I started stand-up. And I was really, okay, I wasn't good at stand-up. I'm a Nepo baby. My dad's a comedian, so I like knew how to sell a joke. I knew how to go into it. I was like, I got progressed quite quickly, and then I fucked everything up. I got too full of myself, too full of my own ego. I found sort of Muay Thai around about that time, and it really chilled me out. It gave me something else to do, and then helped me with stand-up a lot more. And I sort of took 3 months sober, didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't do nothing, and I just trained Muay Thai, wrote stand-up. And stand-up's stand-up's like a weird lifestyle, man. Like I've had to sleep at train stations before. I've been on the road where you go like, well, I can bunk this train, and if I get there, that means I get a Tesco meal deal, so I can eat while I'm on the road. And sort of, I think you have to go through a little bit of that at the beginning. It's like sort of similar to jiu-jitsu. You have to, anyone who's good at jiu-jitsu has the story about the times they've been just beaten and slammed. Nobody ever has the, like, oh yeah, I know I've won every round. You know, if someone comes in and go, yeah, I won every round, you know that guy's shit at jiu-jitsu. Whereas it's the same as stand-up. If someone's like, oh, I've never bombed, you're like, this guy sucks. This guy's going to be bad at stand-up. And so I think you have to have that. And again, with like gigs where you have to go do the tough road gigs. And I don't really do them too much anymore. And it might make me a bit softer, but there's also a point where I think you have to go, I don't always need tough rounds. I need to be selective with my tough rounds. Not every round needs to be a war. The same way sometimes I just want to go to a gig and I don't want to perform to a stag do. Like, and there's 5 different stag do's in who are all getting sniffed up and shouting out and being heckly. And like, yeah, knowing how to deal with that is a skill, but it doesn't need to be every gig. Sometimes it's nice to just go onto a bunch of nice middle-class people who've come out to a theatre and want to hear whatever fucking whimsy I have to say or something. So yeah, I started stand up first, and like, well, I boxed, but I didn't really box properly. But I started stand up first, and like fucking loved stand up. Like it was just, you know, so into it. And the same thing happens. You start putting like stand up in your bio because you've done 3 gigs and all of these things. Yeah. That's one jiu-jitsu class, and they put soon to be ADCC champion, and you're like, what are you on about, Jerry? You're 45. It's not.
Yeah, when you said you'd been like a bullied fat kid, I was like, right, he's normally when you hear that from someone, they're either pretty nails now or funny.
Yeah, I'm funny, bro. Let's make that clear. I'm funny. I don't want anyone listening to this podcast thinking that I'm nails, dude. I will fucking run from a fight and cry.
Have you ever had any like aggro on stage or anything with the sort of comedy you do?
Yeah, a couple of times. I'm a bit of a mouthy prick. Here and there, I had it one time. There was just 2 lads in a show. They were heckling my mate. She's a good comic, and it was very much they just didn't want a woman to be on stage, and I'd sort of like we were getting them out, and the club knew that I did jiu-jitsu, so they were like, "Would you help with this? Like, could you help?" Like, so we got him out, and one of them got in my face, and like Chael Sonnen, you can't let someone get close. I sort of went. I'd made the decision, right? You'd throw an elbow here, and as I've done that, he's been pulled away, and I sort of was like, because in my head I was like, I don't know the law that well. Like there's always bro law, which is like something, but I'm pretty sure if a comedian fucking elbows a punter in the face, that could cause a situation for not only me and the club, but I also I had it one time. You get it mainly coming back from gigs, especially late at night in London. Like last night, I finished my shows at about 1:30, 2. I'm back on public transport. Everyone's hammered, everyone's drunk. And I had it one time where a guy, I took him down and put him in a choke. And one time a guy tried to mug me, and I just threw a couple of leg kicks in him and then sort of ran away and was like, got the fuck out of there, because I was like, he might, he probably knows someone in the area or something. But those are the only times. But most people would fucking beat me in a street fight is the way I always sort of assume it. I just think, when it comes to like getting in a street fight or altercations in the street, don't back down. Like, most people are looking for a moment of weakness, is how I always see it. They're looking to be a bully. They're looking to be something. And I've got the other thing. I'm a bit of a bigger guy. I've got this accent. I can sort of play. They don't really know that I'm a soft little middle class kid whose dad's also a comedian. So it's all right. But I always think if it does come to it, like I'm not tough or hard. That's the thing. I just know a few moves in jiu-jitsu. I know a few moves in MMA. There's a difference between someone who likes fighting and myself. It's a very different thing. And I've met people who are less technical than me, trained less time than me, but they fucking love being in a scrap. They're nails. And that does mean something at some point. And, in a gym where it's consensual, that's fine. But I would fucking hate to find that out on the street. And you're not dealing with someone's niceness. Now you're getting your head stamped in. Now you're getting your arm, kicked in the teeth, and all for fucking what? Because you were trying to show off that you might, trying to show to your mates that you do a bit of jiu-jitsu yourself. I do think that with people who train jiu-jitsu, it's like there is a difference. Like, you're not going to play guard in a street fight. Like it can, it can go wrong. Again, if someone's just a fucking psychopath, man, they might have a knife on them. But I live in London.
I was gonna say, mate, I think you're probably in one of the worst cities in the world to be trying to fucking grapple with people, right?
Yeah, you get settled. Not just that, man. You grab someone and someone's mate. A little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. The other way, you move behind someone, pick them up, slam them, they land on their head. They're now paralyzed. You're now doing 10 years in prison because you had a fucking argument. You had a thing in a bar. But I then, if I'm to be completely honest, there's also the other side of it where like you do sometimes go, I could just fucking end this. Like I could, you do have to grapple. You go, maybe I'll go over there, but I'm also a lot fatter and slower than I actually think I am. So, so you find yourself, there's nothing worse than I've always thought of talking to my mates about training, about how hard it is, and they have no idea. And then going over and myself just getting absolutely Miocic levels against Ngannou sparked out. Just lying on the floor, your eyes are rolling in the back of your head. Some dudes break dancing over you as a celebration in a street fight. I'll be like, fuck this, man. But have you guys ever had to like use a bit of that, like use it in the streets or anything?
Not jiu-jitsu, mate. To be fair, I've not had a street fight for probably about 15 years now. So touch wood, it remains that way. But yeah, I mean, but like you were saying with that time at the gig, I did similar to you. I boxed like recreationally growing up. So at 13 to 17, I boxed. It was mostly because I was a fat kid as well, so I was trying to lose weight. Yeah. And then did a bit of Muay Thai when I was about 19 for about 18 months. But similar to you right now, where I was just smoking and out on the piss all the time, not really taking it seriously. And then I kind of like went into like, got lured in by the grapplers and stuff. But most of the scraps that I had when I was younger, like boxing and striking, like served the purpose. Yeah. If for no other reason, just to get out of the way of fucking sucker punches. There was an occasion where I was round with two guys, and as one spoke to me, I looked at him and I saw in the corner of my eye the guy's shoulder flinch. Yeah. And just because I'd done a lot of boxing and Muay Thai, just instinctively I moved, and the guy tried sucker punching me and fell over, and then we got into a bit of a tussle. But yeah, other than that, not really ever used jiu-jitsu. But we've got a couple of people we know that have, kind of used it in street fights and stuff. But I don't know, mate. We've had this debate so many times. Where is it effective in a street fight? No,
mate. It wouldn't work like that. Like I got my face fractured on a night out years ago where I was arguing with someone, and then it's kind of like you fucking matey, not even arguing with that guy, sucker punched me from the side, mate. Banged me proper, hit me about 4 times before I even knew what fucking year it was. Fractured my face, like ended up being a big brawl. But like, no jiu-jitsu is going to stop you with that. Like, it's what you're going to do. Like, you're getting sucker punched, It is what it is, And it's like, jiu-jitsu's, I'd rather know it than not know it. But the whole, I don't do jiu-jitsu for self-defense at all. No. That's a big thing for me. It's like I don't do it for self-defense at all. I do it because it's a sport I really enjoy. I feel like I can progress, and it's fun strangling people. That's simply it. I'm not doing it to like potentially have a fight with someone, be able to. I don't ever want to be in a fight again in my life. I'm a 35-year-old bloke now. Like, I do not want to fight anyone for really any reason. I'd rather talk my way out of it. I'd rather do anything than have a fight. But it's good to know. It's good to know. It's not a bad thing to know. But all these people are like, yeah, I'm going to fuck them up because I know jiu-jitsu or this whole big self-defense thing. For me, it's like, people are doing gun defense. Like, it's not, it's like, they got a gun on the back of their head. You're like, what the fuck are we, if someone's got a gun on the back of your head and they want to shoot you, they're going to shoot you. You know what I mean? It's the truth. It is what it is. Like, it's like we watch the Ultimate Self-Defense Championships. They do like the knife attacks, and they're like some of the best people in the world, best martial artists, trying to stop them getting stabbed. They get stabbed like at times 64 times in a few minutes, and that's without the actual pain of being stabbed. You know what I mean? It's like you're not really going to stop it. The best thing to do to stop it is not getting those altercations and being a fucking moron. We all know as adults where you might be in danger, where you're not. If you're out on the piss all the time, guess what? You're going to get an altercations. The only time I've ever had fights is when I'm drunk. When I'm pissed, because I'm not Larry, but I like to take the piss. I like to have a laugh. I can be a dickhead. It's not me being purposely like a punchy twat. I'm never punchy, but I do fuck around. You know what I mean? I will pick someone's drink up and down it because I think it's funny. And I will get punched for it.
Got me off that.
Do you know what I mean? And when you're out on the piss, and even if you do have skill, you can't use it anyway because you're too drunk and you fall over. So.
Oh, that's it, man. Your balance is all gone. But there was a thing like saying, like, I think that jiu-jitsu, there was times when someone tried to mug me in Hackney. I was at a bus stop. I was always talking my way out of it. I was going, dude, you've got, and he'd sort of like started it, and then himself was pushing out a little bit. And I was going, dude, just like, please walk away. He was like, why? And he kept stepping forward. I was stepping backwards. And I just said to myself, like, if he steps forward again, just throw a leg kick. And he stepped forward and I threw it and immediately went down. And there was no guard to pass. And then I got on top of him and like slapped him a couple of times and was just like, got the fuck out of there.
But that's a great example, though, of how it works. You know what I mean? But realistically, I would never.
But that's not jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that's Muay Thai. That's Muay Thai.
Well, to be fair, the like mount was pretty like it was a very quick like that was from an MMA sort of like someone's quick step into mount. You know, it was I didn't like when he went down. I wasn't like getting tangled up in his legs. Didn't even give him a chance to have a guard because he didn't know anything. He was I think he was drunk and just something's gone wrong in his life where he's trying to exert a level of power over someone is what I really felt from it. It was then also very weird when I got on top of him and slapped him a couple of times. He then said he then started like being a bit gay and tried to kiss me, and I got up and left.
What? Maybe just fancied you, mate. You know,
it seems to be the ultimate self-defense. Like, dude, if you get in a fight, just fucking start trying to make out with the dude. And all who's going to go? You're going to be like, dude, fuck this guy, man. He's got like,
changes the vibe, mate, a bit, doesn't it?
I reckon you could win the UFC belt if you just kept going in trying to kiss your opponent. They just tap out.
Didn't Marab do that with O'Malley recently, mate? He was kissing him, wasn't he, in the cage? Yeah. And got told off for it.
But again, this was like a guy who was a bit smaller than me. He was just trying to mug me. Again, I'm not coming on this going like you've had some very serious fighters on this podcast. I'm not coming on going, I know what I'm doing. I'm tough. It was just a situation that happened. And I felt fucking awful for days after as well, by the way. I felt shit. I was like, did I really need to do that? I probably could have told my wife. I guess it was a self-defense thing, but then is that who I am? Am I the guy who hits people on the street and gets on top of them and slaps them? Because I was also a little bit pissed off with him. Is that, you know?
But mate, I think the argument with that though is if you were untrained, you would have just put your ass into an A-maker, probably knocked him unconscious, and then like you said, booted him in the head a few times out of fear and not knowing how to defend yourself. So that's where it is powerful because it gives you the opportunity to actually disable somebody with like limited damage, like a bit of a leg kick, a few slaps. Like that's not that bad in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it's more of a humiliating, because again, like when I was on him, I was like, don't hit him because his head could hit the concrete. Like, don't ground and pound someone on the fucking shit. Yeah. And also, you're going to break it. One, you miss it, you're going to break your hand. Fucking, I find ground and pound hard enough to do in a gym. People make it look really easy, but it's difficult when someone's trying to buck you off them and stuff. It's a fucking... And, I'm a dangly, dyspraxic, uncoordinated fuck of a person. So I'm going to end up he's going to end up fucking beating me in a street fight because I've broke my hand off the pavement hitting him. But, yeah, I think there is a thing where people think it's going to be, you're going to go to jiu-jitsu, you're going to learn how to defend yourself and all this. To some degree, the things that will help, I think, and again, I'm no authority on this whatsoever, you're going to understand balance, you're going to understand grip, you're going to understand where to be, where to move. It's like in striking, which is the thing I always struggle with most with striking was distance. If you can understand distance, that's a very, very you can have an amazing left hook. If you don't know where you're meant to be when you're throwing it, you're going to lose to the guy who's got the shit jab, but understand where he's meant to be and how to get the fuck back out of there. I think there's a similar thing with jiu-jitsu. Like if you just understand balance, if you understand, if I keep looking up and someone's trying to snap my head down, they're going to have a tougher time of getting it down there than if I don't know that. And that's a good thing. And that gives you a level of confidence, I think, then that when people, if you live in somewhere like London, I know Plymouth can be pretty far as well, like, if someone is starting something with you, a lot of the time it's people's own lives are fucking miserable, and that's why they're doing these things. That's why they've got to get into a street fight, because they've got, it's a form of self-harm. It's an act of it, and they haven't got something going on in their life where they then need to take their day out on you, and they're trying to be a bully, and you can, as someone who was bullied in school, that's a shit position to be in, so it is better to know something. But do I think you're going to end up fucking pulling off the Aoki lock on someone in a street fight? Probably not, no.
Yeah, but you're right, though. You'd definitely rather know it than not. You know what I mean? Like you said, for balance, for precision, for everything, just knowing how to pin someone is so effective, mate. And like Paul said, like if you're just going to haymaker someone and you know, I've seen people hit their head on the ground on a night out where they've just been whacked and they're just knocked out, and it's 10 times worse, mate. If you could give them a little jab, take them down and subdue them, a lot of the time you don't need to do much more than that, because it's fucking embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? When someone's pinning someone, mate, you must feel like, and they're helpless, it must be so fucking embarrassing. I think I'd rather get knocked out. Do you know what I mean? Than be just someone pinning me and just, you know, like you said, they could molest you. You know, they could do what they want to you. You know, it's a horrible feeling, mate. We've all been there in the gym at any time. Yeah, but imagine doing that in a street fight where people are around. You'd be like, oh no, mate, this is embarrassing.
Oh, dude, just as well as a bit of thing in perspective of like me coming on here saying I want a street fight. When I was last fighting in the MMA in a club, man, I got hit and didn't want to be there anymore. Like, it just came real, and I was like, oh, what the fuck am I doing? And you know, this guy hit me the hardest I've ever been hit, and sort of, you know, when it goes white and then black and you're on your feet and you're still there and everything goes to like static. I had like that. And like, I remember thinking afterwards, like, imagine that was like in the street, because he eye poked me. So I couldn't continue. Like, I couldn't see anything. And I thought, I'm not walking onto this punch with fucking half my vision. Like, I will get chinned. There's no, if it will happen. I remember just thinking afterwards, like, fuck, dude, imagine that that just happened on the street and then his finger went into your eye, you can't see, and then he hits you again and you're out. Like, what the fuck do you do there? Because even like, look, MMA is it's a hard sport, as is Jiu-Jitsu. They're hard sports. But there is a safety net. There is, as ever low that safety net is it's picking you up off the floor when you've been knocked out, when your arm's been broken, when you know, you just give in, whatever it is, there is a safety net there that I think people use as a barrier to go like, oh, well, it's not really real fighting because in the street, and you're like, no one street fighting is that skilled usually. That it's outside of tiger because someone, you know, spoke to someone's missus.
Tiger.
Yeah, that's when they always are. And it's the woman going, no, Daryl, leave it, as he's like throwing his arms in the air.
Tiger, mate.
Yeah. There was one in Croydon that, like, when that got shut down, I think knife crime went down by about 70%. I think that was the problem with the fucking place. But you know, and like, I remember just having that when I came out of the cage afterwards, just feeling like a fucking pussy, man. Just feeling like, you know, and those are the moments you also need it when you get to those crossroads in martial arts where you have one of them moments where you feel pathetic. A crowd of people have just watched you at a low moment. You have to sort of go, all right, am I the person that I thought I was? Am I this type? Probably not. And what's the outcome of that? My life's still fine. Everything's still okay. I'm still, you know, my mates still love me. People, my family still love me. It doesn't matter. But that little bit of my ego has just been put in check. And that's a really, you know, that's the important things I think you have to take from it sometimes. When, you know, there's a girl who used to train at my gym who's a pro fighter, Kate Bachek. That she could kill me if she wanted to. And she's like a quarter of my size. She could just like I remember training one day and her just fucking me up and being like, what the fuck am I meant to, like, you know, you just have that eye-opening moment where you go, oh, there's just some like woman out there who, if she wanted to, could just fucking take my head home as a trophy. And I'm paying 90 quid a month for the fucking...
for the pleasure of it, mate.
I know this lesson.
It is mental. It is yeah. Again, like jiu-jitsu is amazing, but it's not for me. Like I don't use it for self-defense. It's useful, but I think like just enjoy it as a sport. People, like, you know, don't think that you're like a next UFC fighter because you do jiu-jitsu.
Mate, I tell you where it has come in really helpful recently and really useful is I've got a little boy who's 5 now. Yeah, and he's just started liking to wrestle, and that's where jiu-jitsu is helpful, mate. Trying to deal with a feisty 5-year-old. That's why I'm glad a little bit of jiu-jitsu. Because, mate, he's like eye gouging. You know, you talked about like how people just don't, like the white belts who don't understand the etiquette. That's like a 5-year-old child, mate. He's like eye gouging. He's fish hooking. He's a nightmare, mate. So that's where jiu-jitsu is helpful.
Well, I got my lad trying to rear naked choke me every time I'm on the fucking sofa. I'm like, hey, do him on 9 because he's getting better as well. So he's like nearly 13, and every time I'm like, no, like just bang, trying to get me with something. I'm like, oh man.
Does he train your boy?
Yeah, he started getting right into it now. So does his MMA and his jiu-jitsu now, and yeah, he's starting to he's just shaved his hair off now because he thinks he's hard now. So he's
wow, here we go.
Do you know what I mean? He's loving it. No, he's mate. It's just one of those where he's just He's not got a pube yet, mate. I'm a bit worried about that because he's quite a big lad. So I'm thinking like, fuck, he's going to be bigger than me, isn't he? You know what I mean? I'm training a little killer already. Like, give it 5 years, maybe killing me.
Have you watched him compete or anything yet?
Nah, mate. He plays football, so he loves football, and then he started doing jiu-jitsu pretty regularly. So I think like I'm hoping by the summer I'll get him into like a Devon Open to give him a little go and
that
see what he's actually pretty good, mate. He's pretty good. He learns quick, you know.
Yeah, mate. I wonder with like my kid if he starts competing because he's like a bit. He's like kids do jiu-jitsu at 5, but for me it's a bit young. So we kind of just play games. Like he tries passing my legs, he gets on my back and tries hanging on. So we just mess around like that. But he does taekwondo, and it's like kids taekwondo. So it's not real taekwondo, but he competed in that. And they were only doing like silly stuff, like they were like beating up like one of those those dummies that you get.
Right, okay.
Like what they called bully bullies or something.
Yeah, I know what you're on about, yeah.
So he was doing that, he had to do like a long jump thing, and it wasn't really combative, but he was still competing against people, and he was like losing, and he was getting upset, and that was tough to watch, mate. But there was even an occasion not related to like competing where he was at a party, and some kid burst his balloon, and I was fuming, mate. I was so angry about it. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to cope, like if he's playing football or let alone fighting, where if he gets filled in, I just don't know how I'm going to handle that.
It's hard to watch when I watch my lad, like some lad who's a bit like 3 years older than him, because the age, he started at 12, so the classes are 12 to like 16. So he's at like literally like you know what I mean? So he's in that teen group. So sometimes there's like a 15-year-old who's not really done much jiu-jitsu, or they come for a few weeks and then they just start like ragging him around a little bit. And I can see him and he's just too strong. And I'm like, yeah, just keep going, mate. But in the back of my head, I'm like, just keep going, mate, because in a few years, you're just murdering him. So just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, my dad come to watch me. I'd never let my dad come watch me if I did MMA or something again, like interclub level, because I'm like, I don't think you'd like that. Like that I could get picked up and slammed on my head like that, which has happened to me in jiu-jitsu tournaments.
Was that on your Instagram? Is that you getting slammed on your head on your Instagram?
Yeah, man. I got so that guy shouldn't have. It was a bit of, again, look, he was better than me, like, and I was quite new to jiu-jitsu. It was at the Brighton Open. You can see it on my Instagram, and my wrestling wasn't very good at that time, and it's not now, but I have better defensive wrestling. I focus a lot on wrestling after that. And he shot, and he's got me in the air, and I've fully gone flips in the air, but I've landed right on my head. And I went out, came back in like for a second. And so I like, he eventually shoulder triangles me and, head and arm chokes me. So I had to tap. He was cool about it. He was like, even when he did it, he went, shit, sorry, mate, that was a bit hard. I was like, that's fine, man, it's competition. And I went over to the like medic tent, or to where the medic was, and I was like, look, I just took a massive land on my head that like the whole room went like that when it happened. You know,
yeah, man, that was fucking brutal.
Yeah. And I went over and I was like to the doctor, like, can we check? And he was like, oh, you're fine. He looked pissed off that I'd even come over. So I was playing football about 3 days later, and I've headed the ball, and my brain, it felt like I didn't have a skull. It just felt like it bounced off my brain. I went home and I looked up, like, and they were like, yes, everything I looked up was like, yes, severe concussion that's been on set after a head trauma. And that lasted for about 4 days. And I was like, I'm not going to tell my mum or my dad about this, that this happened.
That's why I pulled guard, mate.
The worst injury I had, the worst I got kneed. It's in my stand-up special. I talk about it a lot. I got kneed in the balls really bad and needed surgery. Like, I had to go to surgery. Yeah, man, that was like, but I'll see how graphic you could do it. I like, blood was pouring into my testicle, so it like just swelled and like basically like tripled in size. Was
that a competition, or was it in like just? No,
it was dude's like first day, need me in the balls.
Was this Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu?
Jiu-Jitsu. We were starting wrestling. I was getting ready for the London Open. This was probably when I was at my like most into Jiu-Jitsu, as in I was about 85 kg. I was about 86 kg. I was competing at 84, I think. and I'd like weight cut it down, but done it all right. I was training like 5-6 times a week. Like I was getting good for a white belt. I was having good rounds and stuff. But I was in this calorie deficit, and I remember going in for that morning class, and I didn't want to go, but I was like, no, Dave Goggins, all of this shit. Went in there, started wrestling with this guy, and he's faked a takedown. I sprawled. As I sprawled, he's panicked and just like put his knees through, and I've just like sprawled into the knee, and screamed involuntary, like before I've even hit the floor. I'm just I was lying on the gym floor for a couple of hours. Like I was throwing up. I was fucked. Got home, and then I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm not doing this comp. So I just kind of went and did my shows and stuff, but I kept like throwing up, was ill. Eventually I took myself to the hospital, and they were like, fuck. And then I came back in the next day, and they were like, you need an emergency surgery right now. And they were like, you had a torsion, a rupture, and internal bleeding. And they then, so the doctors were great. They patched me up. They were like, you're very lucky to still have that testicle. Like, you're really lucky. But then the recovery of it was horrific, because like you're on a, what is it? Codeine, which constipates you. So you've got to take laxative. But then like where the scar is like obviously a sensitive area you don't want to fuck. And it was just like fucking horrific. And I'd only been training jiu-jitsu like a year and a bit. So then I was like to myself, during the 6 weeks I had off, I was like, you're going back and you're fucking that guy up, and then you're done with it. I was like, that's like you're going back, you're fucking him up, and then you're done with it. And I went back, I rolled with him, he swept me, and I based, and it fucked my shoulder, so I was out for another
no.
So he fucking got me again. I was like, this dude's like a curse on me, man. I can't.
He's your kryptonite, mate.
But that was the only time I've ever felt like a fighter, was when I went back to jiu-jitsu. I was like, no, you've got to go back. Like, not just to get him, but like, you like this sport. You like what it does. This is a combat sport, man. Everyone who does combat sports for long enough has a story about the time they got put in hospital with something. It's going to happen.
Mate, that's one of the worst injuries I've ever heard of, I think. I literally the other day, mate, got a bit moody with someone because they were putting a groin guard on for jiu-jitsu. And I was like, bro, that's illegal. You might break someone's elbow with it. And he was like, well, we're not competing. Fuck off, basically. I was like, yeah, fair enough. But yeah, mate, after hearing that, I think I might wear a groin guard.
Dude, I still don't wear one, but dude, it was like, I when people go like, a kick in the balls hurts? This pain was indescribable. Like, just everything in my body just shut down. It was like a, have you ever been kicked in the liver? It was like that, but with the added pain of like the testicle, and like when it like ruptured and the bruising on it was fucking bleak. It was, yeah. But that's part of it.
Yeah, mate, I remember watching a Pride fight with Mirko Krokop, and I can't think who he was fighting, but he took a really brutal kick to the groin, and he pulled out of the fight, and he couldn't continue. And it turns out that when the guy kicked him so hard, both his balls went up inside him, like they ascended. And he had to go to like the hospital and had them whipped back down. So when you first started talking, I thought you were going to say that happened, mate, but I'm not sure which sounds worse, to be honest.
No, yeah, it was a torsion, a rupture. It was fucking, it was bad. And they were like, that was, I would have taken an arm break over that, I reckon. If you gave me the option of that again, I'd go with the arm break. I
broke my arm pretty bad, mate, and I would definitely choose my arm break over that.
Anything
that involves the testicles as a guy, though, you're going to opt out, in you. That's it.
Yeah. Take my fucking arm, mate. Leave my dick alone.
It was. I mean, in a gym where you hear someone go like, and everyone sort of stops and looks. This was like screaming, and everyone turned and was like. But then they were like, because it's like fighters, they were like, just put some ice on it, you'll be all right. And I thought, when you're waiting for the pain to stop, and it's just not stopping, it just didn't stop. And that was
that's when you know you got a problem, innit?
Fuck, it was when I was in the hospital and they did the ultrasound, and I heard one of them go, that doesn't look good. And I was like, oh, and then I was like, oh, fuck, man. And I was like, Yeah, I was gutted I didn't get to do that tournament as well. I was really training for it. I was really looking. I was going to try not get slammed on my head, which was my fucking only goal. Instead, I got fucking put in hospital and nearly lost my testicle. But you know,
mate.
If you're going to go down to the gym and pretend you're the tough guy by rolling around and you do a martial art, at some point, you know, you can be as good as fighting as you like, learn everything. Someone kicks you in the fucking nuts. It's a good move. They're going to win the round.
Yeah, that's it, mate. No, that's fair. Mate, I wanted to ask, when you obviously came into like jiu-jitsu, so you said you did Muay Thai for a bit, and you commented at the start of the podcast that there was a few like weird, like culty, like traits of the gym you were at. And then obviously moving into jiu-jitsu, which is notoriously can be a little bit like weird and culty and political, depending on where you end up as a gym. Like I've kind of lived through like various transitions of jiu-jitsu, but I know like chatting to Danny, like he come in like as a grown man, as an adult, as a mature, responsible person, and he found it a bit odd in places. Like, what was your take on it when you experienced that weird culty behavior at Muay Thai and then maybe sort of over the years in jiu-jitsu?
I have such a perpetual, well, especially when I was younger, such a perpetual need to be liked that, like, when I was in a culty gym, it actually served well for me in places because it made me train, made me disciplined. Looking back on it, it was fucking insane. It was a bit crazy, calling someone master. And, you know, one thing that I've sort of learned now is confidence in a gym isn't like that you can like roll with everyone and beat them. Confidence in a gym is being able to say no to people to rolling because you don't want to roll with them. It's being able, you know, if you walk into a class and the coach goes, "You're late, 50 burpees," go, "I don't do fucking 50, but I don't have to. You're not my boss. Like, I'm late because I have a fucking life and I'm trying to get to the gym to this class." Like, sure, you want to instill a bit of discipline, but, you know, I'll do it. But, like, you know, I'd rather be pals with my coach than then be a hierarchy above me, if that makes sense. I haven't experienced it at all in jiu-jitsu. The place I train, New Wave Academy, Colin and Christian, who run it, very friendly people, very nice, very chill. You know, they have like barbecues and stuff like that. You go down, you have a few beers with them after a grading. I went out, we got on the piss and we went for like dinner. You know, that never happened at my old place. And it probably did need some discipline like that because it was a gym in Fulton Heath and a lot of the kids were coming in, you know, off the street, some of them in gangs, things like this. So you probably did need to teach them to bow and cup on cup. And I think there is a place for that in martial arts. I think, you know, I wouldn't be as disciplined as I was if it wasn't for this place. Once you start calling people master, once it comes a business plan, once it comes, you can only train if you're wearing this gear. You can only train if you're buying our clothes from here. And if if you train here, you shouldn't be training anywhere else. That's a controlling relationship. That's, you know, if you heard a woman talk about her partner, that he makes sure she only wears this and she has to be at this time at this place and she's only allowed to see him there, you'd be like, oh, she needs to get the fuck out of that. It's the same as if you're in a martial arts gym. It's not good. You're an adult. You're paying these people. Like, you should be allowed to go, I don't really consent to this. I don't really like this. Makes me feel uncomfortable. But I haven't experienced it at all in jiu-jitsu. What was your experience of it? Like, was it by any chance, was it Gracie Barra?
Nah,
no,
mate,
but we've heard a lot about GB.
Yeah, we've had loads of people on saying about Gracie Barra, haven't we? Like, just fucking.
That's what I hear. Gracie Barra is
extreme it is, mate. In all fairness, mate, my first couple of years, we had a change of coach. And it wasn't like horrendous, like, you know, nothing like a Gracie Barra sort of situation, mate. And they would kind of say, like, yeah, you can train other places and you do other things, but really, like, if you did, you'd come in and they would just like, just give you fuck, really, mate. Just be like, oh yeah, he's been down so and so, their shit, fucking blah blah blah, and you'd hear it. Do you know what I mean? And that was the only thing that used to piss me off because I just don't care, mate. Like, I've got friends that train at other gyms. I just want to train with them. It's as simple as that. It's nothing like personal. It's nothing whatever. It's just like, yeah, exactly that. And it's like, that's the only thing that used to piss me off, mate, because I don't want to turn up and get a life lesson from someone, or I don't want to turn up and get fucking loads of little sly digs about because I've trained at another gym. Like, I just wanted to fucking learn jiu-jitsu, mate. That's all we really had. Like, it was nothing too bad. It wasn't anything like they made us wear certain gis. They made us, pay for gradings. They done any of that. We were really lucky. Even before the change, it's even better now. But even before the change, it was like, again, it was cliquey. I think that's the big thing with jiu-jitsu. It can be really cliquey. But if you have a coach that's, people look up to, and they haven't got a lot on their life, and they're young and they're impressionable, I can see how it becomes cliquey. You know what I mean? I can see how naturally, probably without really trying, it becomes a bit culty and a bit cliquey, because they think that coach is the best thing ever. Because they don't train anywhere else, they genuinely believe it. They genuinely believe it. They think like, my coach, no one can beat my coach. And then it's only when you actually go and cross-train and travel and see other people, you think, fuck, like, our coach now is Sam Crook. I don't know if you know who Sam Crook is, with Frank. He's they're tearing up the scene. He just won the absolute and black belt in the London Open on the weekend. He broke his leg last year. He's a very good coach, but he's under no illusion. He always says, like, he's just in it to get better, and we go and train other places, and he's so for cross training. But he just, the difference with him is that he's like open, like, oh no, this guy's really good, this guy's this, and he encourages everyone to like kind of cross train. Whereas before, our old coach would just slag off every other gym saying they're shit, and no one's as good as what he can offer. And that sort of like mindset, I just think it's a bit old. I think it's just a bit old school. No matter how good you are in any sport, or we're both PTs and coaches and stuff like that, there's someone who'll know more, or someone that can teach you something. So I just don't really understand that side of stuff. I just think we should fucking train where you want, have fun. Like you said, we're a small community as well. You know what I mean? There's not many of us. There's not a huge amount of people doing jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? So like, in that small community, we should be cross training and having fun with it.
Yeah, in my old kickboxing gym, it was definitely like that, and he called him master, and he had all his titles up and all these things. And look, when you first come into like Muay Thai or something, someone can go there a world champion, and look, not to displacing it, there's a difference between winning glory and an ISKA regional belt. There is a huge difference in that, but you don't know that. Someone says they're a world champion. You don't know that, the same way if someone goes, I won BJJ 24/7 European I won the Euros at BJJ 24/7 is different to winning ADCC. But when you first come in, you're probably not going to know that. And it's still a great achievement. I'm not discrediting from that. I couldn't do it. I could go train all the time. That wouldn't be able to do it. I think people then use that sometimes, or in my experience, what I had in some place was like that. Look, you should all listen to me because of this. And so you go, well, they're a world champion. They know what they're fucking talking about, but there's levels to it,
Yeah, there's levels to it. And also, like, as jiu-jitsu or any sport, they're always progressing. Like, jiu-jitsu 10, 15 years ago, like, isn't the level that it is now. No matter what anyone says, it moves on like any sport. It's like, you look at Premier League football in the 90s compared to what Pep Guardiola does now. They get absolutely destroyed in the 90s compared to
the
what
athleticism.
There's no fucking, there's no comparison, mate. It just keeps moving forward. And it's the same with jiu-jitsu. I know Paul been to the ADCC in Nottingham, didn't you, that time?
2011.
2011. Like they were doing it in just like a sports hall or something.
Yeah,
comparing that competition, if you win that competition compared to winning a 2024 ADCC, it's not the same fucking competition. Do you know what I mean? There might be like a similar level, and you might have like a lot of, not taking it away from those guys, because some of those guys were top guys, but it's not quite the fucking same. Do you know what I mean? Now it's like professional, it's like athletes, they've got a program, they've got like, you've got way more people doing it. You've got, the talents coming through, you've got these kids coming through that killing everyone, you know what I mean? You got like Owen Jones coming through, like ripping legs off, the standard is definitely higher. So it's the same sort of thing. Like, they might have won like a fucking Abu Dhabi world title 15 years ago. Yeah, it's not taking it away. It's still a cool achievement. But comparing that to something like, someone winning a 2022 ADCC, it's not the same. It's not the fucking same.
But that I found out the place I trained was a bit cold. There was all of it. It was just, but I also like was like, oh yeah, when you speak to Master and all of this, and then he was taking classes and would go to these classes, and when he would speak to you and acknowledge you, you'd felt like, and it was genuinely like a cult, like, and you feel that. And let me just say, by the way, the Muay Thai we were learning was phenomenal. They were good.
Yeah,
these guys, they weren't bad at it at all. They knew what the fuck they were doing. Just I went away to do the Edinburgh Fringe, and then when I came back, a load of the fighters had left, which I always think is a sign of, you know, the fighters. You know, you keep the gym lights on by people like myself, the hobbyists come in, and then when you find out a bunch of the fighters are fucked off because of a load of stuff, it does. And then when I sort of asked about it, someone went to me, "If you don't know, you should just shut up." And I was like, I was like, oh, sorry that like 6 people who used to be coaches have all fucked off. I'd like to, you know, and that's when I started going to New Wave. And again, was very taken aback. Like Christian and Colin, who run the place, you just call them Christian and Colin. Like there isn't any like master or professor or any of this stuff. And the only thing that they ask is that if you are competing, could you wear the clothes of the gym because you're representing the gym? Which I think is fair enough. You know, if you turn up, turn up in a New Wave rash guard, that's all we ask for you. And they're not trying to sell you stuff. They're not, you know, and they keep it relatively for what it is, you know, 90 quid a month. And there's a lot of classes and stuff. It's pretty fucking good. And that was very different to where I had been training, where you have to, you know, you have to train in this gear. You have to train in that, which I was like, well, you know, that's there. And then you realize, oh, it's just someone trying to sell you more stuff. You know, they don't care if you turn up in,
it's good business model, isn't it?
As long as you're not wearing shorts with pockets on it, they couldn't give a fuck. If you turn up in a thong, they probably wouldn't care. They'd just be like, all right, as long as, you know. But that was a stark difference to, and it creates a better atmosphere amongst the culture of the gym as well, amongst people who hang out. You know, a lot more people hang out, a lot more people sit around and chat, and it creates this camaraderie and this cool thing. And that I didn't get. I did, you know, there's a guy I trained with, Mark Goodrich, you know, as a Muay Thai gym in Croydon, who's and his son Jeremiah, who's out there killing it in Thailand at the minute. And again, he doesn't have any of the culty aspect in his gym. He was someone I met at this previous place, and he was, you know, very into the community and things like that. And there are coaches, you know, set up gyms because they want to better people's lives. They would go like, I'm setting up a gym in Croydon. There's a lot of kids who need things like this. And it gets them in off the street and teaches them discipline and stuff like that. So gyms can be this amazing, you know, this amazing hub. And there's a thing that people say I always like, is like, no one knew I was a comedian for a while at my gym because we all had this other mutual hobby, a mutual thing that we did. So you didn't ask what someone's job was because you didn't need to make small talk. You talk about the thing you've just been doing. And eventually I was like, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I do comedy. And I'd be like, oh, fuck, no way, I'm interested. And then I'll chat to someone else and there'd be like an actor, or there'd be someone in there, a postman, and then someone else is a police officer. And, you know, and then you also don't know anything about anyone's politics. I mean, in Jiu-Jitsu, you can probably guess they're probably going to be slightly right-wing, because for some reason that's who it attracts them. Everyone's a conspiracy theorist and right-wing for some reason. But I don't know why, but everyone loves just being slightly, you know, moaning about trans people. And you're like, you're in a gym, there are no trans people. What the fuck?
Just leave them alone.
You don't know any trans people.
That's why you ditched the gi.
I just went too long without doing it. I'm scared to go back. That's
fair enough.
I was doing MMA as well, and the way I was wrestling and stuff, I thought, all right, there's only so many classes I'm going to train a week. Am I going to throw gi in there to learn how to do gi, to get better at that bit of the gi and that? And I then realised, you know, look, as a traditional form of a martial art, I think Jiu-Jitsu is beautiful, especially with the gi and all of that stuff. I don't really know how much of a better fighter it makes me personally if I'm learning to fight. You know, if I was doing MMA and stuff like that, and I'd had that attitude, I'm probably wrong. I've now gone too far along that I don't want to fucking tie my blue belt up, go in there and have some one-stripe white belt just absolutely fucking making a fool of me on the mat. So it's all to do with my own ego, which I think I deserve credit for, being one of the few people who admit that, seeing as everyone else comes up with some woo-woo excuse. Not me. I'm just a bit of a coward.
Yeah, fair, mate. Now I don't like it because it's my fingers, mate. I'm old. That's it. That's probably the same, mate. To be fair, someone sticks me in some stupid worm guard, mate, and I ain't got a clue, to be honest. So,
that's the other thing as well. There's loads of things like that in it where I'm like, this is just fucking shit. Like worm guard, like spider guard, all of this shit. I'm like, people always say, oh, but if you're in a coat and I grab here and do it, and I'm like, yeah, dude, someone would have fucking hit you in the face by then. You're not gonna start playing spider guard in a street fight. What the fuck are you on about? Like, but it does look amazing. It does look beautiful. I think it's, as a traditional sense of a martial art goes, it does look aesthetically. And there was always something cool about putting the gi on and tying your belt. It made you feel like a martial artist. Don't really get when you're doing no gi, where you're just putting some spats and some shorts on and putting flip flops on and then walking out to the vat. It's not the same. Like tying a belt, putting a jacket on, the gi jacket and the trousers, and the tatami like logos on it and stuff. It's fucking cool. But I've got my gi upstairs. I don't think I've worn it in about 2-3 years.
Yeah, no, that's fair. No, you're right about putting it on, I think. You know, when you put the belt on and you do the first knot and then you do the double knot and you like snap it and put it really hard.
Yeah. I still don't think I can tie a belt.
I think I just come from like just thinking it was like, you know, I watched too much South Park, mate, for too many years, to like calling him Sensei Craig and just fucking taking the piss out of people who wear gis. So then when I transitioned, I was like, I'm one of these now. Just so impressed with myself. Just we were putting on the gi. I pretty much fucking hate the gi these days, mate. I say that I'm enjoying it a little bit more, but yeah, it's just. I just get a bit bored of it. I'll just get bored of stalling. Someone grabs you and something, I'm like, oh, breaking it. And again, like the thing with the fingers, I got like surgery. I've had shoulder surgery, so my grip goes, and I'm just like one-handed bandit, mate, trying to get out of something. It's just shit. I'd rather as well concentrate on one thing. Like I prefer no-gi. I'd rather just put all my eggs into that basket instead of trying to like spend my evenings learning worm guard or something. It just makes it a lot harder, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like I found the stalling in it very, very. When I first started, I liked the gi. I didn't like no gi because I think no gi's harder to get at first if you make, because you can always hold on in the gi. Like you'd always just like sort of go, well, if I just pull someone on here, whereas no gi, you're just slipping and sliding everywhere. But then I started falling in love with it, especially with like MMA and things like that, and then wrestling and all of these things that I thought really cool. But there's a guy, Arjun Paul Forrest, who's very good at judo, and he was doing judo things in the gi one day, and I was like, man, that's fucking cool. He was like sending cunts flying, and I was just like, that is sick. I was like, that's, and then I was like, how long you done judo? He was like, all my life. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that, so fuck the gi.
Yeah, mate, it's cool. What's your? You mentioned that you were hoping to get back on the competition scene at some point, mate. Any kind of immediate plans, or you? I
signed up the Grappling Industries in April, but I'm not going to be able to do it, so I'm going to push it back. Probably about June. I'd like to get back down, maybe compete one more time at heavyweight, just on my way down. See where I'm at as a blue belt, especially I'm in the adult division, so I've got to go in against all the fucking boys who are taking it seriously, and I've not yet competed at. You know, you come up against people who are really fucking going for it. But I'd like to get a good podium finish one time in my adult career, just to say that I've done it. You know, get like a first, second, or third would be a cool thing. But it is a meritocracy. It's down to really who wants it more, I think, with these things. And there's someone in there right now while I'm hungover doing a podcast. They're out there fucking lifting weights and training and doing these things. And if they beat me, they've earned it. They've deserved it. That is the beauty of this sport. You can walk away and always say they were on steroids, they were on this, but man, at least, you know, if you're willing to take steroids to try win Grappling Industries, fucking good on you. Like that's. I mean, I think it's mad, you know, to change your physiology to do that. But you know, there are people I've come across who I think are probably a little bit saucy. But there's also people who are genetic freaks, and you're going to get them in this sport. And so, yeah, I'd like to get back into the comps, but the level of training and stuff I like to do for competitions is hard to do with stand-ups. I need to take a little bit less gigs, and then I can train sort of 5-6 times a week. Not hard every session, but you know, can get that you're just going in, you're having your roll. Sometimes I won't even spar. I'll take like a day, I'll take sparring really light and just flow roll. But I love going in. I love that sort of 6-week training period up to a comp. And then my gym's really good. They put on comp classes to help you understand the rule set as well. They're very good at going like, look, sometimes you win a competition not because you're better at jiu-jitsu, but because you understand the rules better. If someone's mounted you and you're 10 points up, fucking hold them in mount. Don't try it. I know it sounds weird, but don't try to break out of mount and get away, because you might just be giving them more points, which is where the competition rule set isn't necessarily, we could get into the philosophy of all of that, but isn't necessarily conducive to being a better fighter. But it does help you, if you know the rules, you are going to win things. That's what that is. I've seen it happen loads. Someone just understands the point system a lot more. And I think you can always tell when you roll with someone when they understand, when they compete a lot. Like they're very quick to knee on belly, hold it for a certain amount of time, into mount, hold it, into a back take. They put the hooks in before they go for a body triangle. You can always sort of see when someone's used to it. You're like, oh yeah, you're, which is a good thing. But yeah, I'd love to do it, get back into a grappling industries or a local event. But I don't think I'm going to be on ADCC anytime soon or anything like that.
And I guess you're at the wrong end of that adult division now as well, aren't you, mate? Being sort of late 20s.
I was in his physical prime, mate.
Tell that to some of those 19-year-olds that we've seen killing people.
What a shameful fucking thing that is to be into my prime.
Physical prime, mate, at 28. You should be flying. You should be killing these 20-year-olds.
There's a few of these 21, 22-year-olds. You look it up whenever you go on Smooth Comp, 35 wins. You're like, oh fuck, dude.
Mate, there's this lad that I was supposed to fight, and he's a big boy, and he beat one of a purple belt. He's a blue belt, and he beat a purple belt at our gym who is a killer, and he's about 20 kilos heavier than the purple belt, so it was it was in the absolute. But this lad I looked at his Smooth Comp, mate. It's 136 wins at blue belt. And I was like, fuck.
Give him his fucking purple belt, man.
Mate, he's 19. He's under 97 and he's fucking jacked. Massive, mate. Jacked. And when he beat the purple belt, it was at one of these open absolutes. And he subbed 2 black belts and then beat the purple belt.
Where does he train out of?
Escapology in Cambridge, I think.
There's a lad who trains out of Owen's gym, Stefan, who's 19-year-old, and put up a video the other day of him benching. I think I'm going to say this number, and it does sound made up, 160 kg.
It was 160. I saw the post.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. Some young lad, wasn't it? It was he was, and I was looking at that, that can't be real.
Yeah.
I've trained against him.
How'd that go?
I swear to God, once I took him down. I got a double leg on him once, and it is still the greatest moment of my jiu-jitsu career. And he, to be fair, always took it easy on me, even from when he was 16. I was very much a rest round. Not below a rest round. I was just he might as well have been sat on the side, having a bit of water. There are some people out there you go, fucking hell, but again, he's in training every single day, and I think when you're 19 years old, I was saying to him one time, because he was having a chat. His dad was like, my dad wants me to go to uni and all of this stuff. I'm like, I know your dad. I'm like, dude, you're too good at this. I'm like, if worse comes to worse, if you don't, whatever happens, this is a great thing to be. You're going to teach jiu-jitsu for the rest of your life. That's a really cool thing. You're going to be able to do this and teach people. That will be your job.
As well, he can always go uni later. There's no stopping him when he's, 28 and in his physical prime. And he's not made it. He can then go back to uni.
Fucks up a load of freshers. goes to the uni jiu-jitsu campus and just beating up some 18-year-old who thought he'd give it a go because he's listened to a bit of Rogan.
Yeah. Exactly, mate. But yeah, that's mate, there's some absolute killers out there coming through, and there's only going to be more, mate, because it's getting more popular. So you see all the kids now, they're starting from so young, you know what I mean? Some of these kids are 7, 8 years old, and you watch them and they're really good. They're not just guessing. They're gift wrapping, back takes, body triangles, choking them. What competition was it recently? They had the first kids match. Was it on Who's Number One? I think on Who's Number One, they had like obviously the main card, but they had their first kids match, mate. And these kids were like absolute little savages. I was watching it like, how can they were like 12 or something. They were killing each other, but they were so good, like ridiculously good, like Barambolos and shit. And you're like, how can they be that good at 12?
Basically, in like 10 years, the average athlete is going to be like Cade and Ty Ruotolo or the Tackets. You know what I mean? That's what you're going to end up with. Brilliant.
It'll be like football, whereas like, you know, you look at like when Mbappe and Saka and all these players come through, they were teenagers and playing in the first team. It will be like that with jiu-jitsu at some point. You know, I know the physicality comes part of it, but there'll be a point where there's like 18, 19-year-olds just fucking ripping
killing
people.
Yeah.
You know?
I definitely think I will be, mate.
And I wonder what the next thing in the sport is, whereas the leg lock system and the Danaher system of attacking the legs revolutionised the sport, which I think is one of the most fascinating. I wish that was more known. One of the most fascinating bits of sports philosophy that's ever happened. You know, where somebody invented this sort of system to attack the legs that revolutionised everything. I wonder what the next one of them will be within the sport. There will be something else that comes along that somebody sees and figures out that's going on in some gym somewhere right now where they're working out, where we're going to be in 10 years' time going, oh, we never used to have that. That was, you know, that was like a weird system, you know, we didn't do it like that because it was seen as this way. And then someone figured something out. I guess, and, you know, I was listening to Gordon Ryan talk about it, and he says it's going to be more smother taps and things like that, you know, which, you know, does fare well for the bigger guy. But yeah, it's just this constantly evolving. And that's what's cool about jiu-jitsu. It's just philosophical. It's just my philosophy of the way I've been taught, and the things that I've found work for me are up against the things that work for you. This is just philosophy. It is. Even if someone beats you with this, it doesn't mean someone that they're technically correct, because someone better with a different philosophy can beat them. And you know, you can get someone I always think you can get someone who's really, really good, but they have one thing that they're bad at, and they're up against someone who's good at that one thing that they're bad at. You know, they might have a certain, just for example, I don't know, they might not be good at against guard players, but they can smash everyone else as a wrestler, and then someone pulls guard, and then they're suddenly like, oh, fuck, like now what do I... You know, and that's not necessarily the best way to do it, but that's what I find cool about it. There is no right or wrong way, and that's what I've always noticed with coaches in jiu-jitsu. I've never had a coach that said, this is the way you do this. I've always had a coach that says, this is what works for me. This is what I've learned that helps me and what I think should do this. But you guys play around with it and find out if this works for you. It works for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
But yeah, we'll see what the next revolution is, mate. It's probably going to be, I don't know, maybe rotational hip locks or like oil checks or something weird like that.
Reverse cowgirl.
Oh, yeah. Oil checks. People should someone just brings in a throwing axe and everyone goes, oh, why did I never think of that? That was weird.
Bring back the Boston Crab, mate. That's what I say.
I got Boston Crab. Someone tried to Boston Crab me once. It was fucking... Someone tried to Boston Crab me once, and someone tried an Imanami roll on me one time, and I was like, absolutely fucking... I'm not getting it. I think that getting that done to you. Like, I was a white belt, and I'd only been training a few months, and I was like, I know that's a fucking dick move. Like, Imanami, I was like, I know that's not cool.
We'll let you go in a second, Elliot, because we've had you for a couple of hours and you probably need hair of the dog or something, mate. But
I'm actually not hungover. I just always have a sweaty hungover look about me. Yeah, I'm like a sleep. I always perpetually look like I'm coming down off pills. That's just what I believe.
But mate, do you want to shout out anything? You got any any gigs, tours, or anything coming up you want to tell our audience about?
I've got a special on YouTube where I talk about like that injury and stuff like that. But mainly just like, you know, if you like follow me on Instagram and stuff like that. But mainly it's just been a pleasure to talk jiu-jitsu. This is just what I like doing. I just like, you know, there's nothing more I love meeting than some dude who also has this weird little interesting hobby that I've got, and just sitting there for hours talking absolute, like, you know, just how much you love it and like the systems of attack and all of these things. It's a fucking great hobby, and I love doing it. And so, you know, I'll do it for as long as I possibly can. And yeah, this has just been a pleasure to do this. Thank you for having me. It's cool as well because you guys have like serious fucking world-class jiu-jitsu athletes on this. And then some guys like trousers are falling down from here, just like fucking like I got tired walking up the stairs to come do this.
Nah, it's been good, mate. It's we do get obviously a lot of the top guys on, but we also like people who are just, you know, like yourself, like got a really cool job and really into jiu-jitsu, you know, so it's a good blend. And I think people like listening to that as well, because it isn't just about, you know, the professional athlete all the time, you know, because you know their mindset's different to probably 90% of our audience that watches, mate. So it's always like, you know, me and Paul are not professional athletes. We're never going to be, you know, we're hobbyists as well. We might take it at times, or I do, like a little bit more serious than an average hobbyist, but like, you know, still a hobbyist, mate.
Yeah.
You know?
And mate, one of the things that we didn't really talk about much, but I think everybody can like appreciate is just the ball breaking and the shit talking that you get in the gyms, mate. And it's just good having a good laugh and being just dickheads, because I think that's part of jiu-jitsu in combat sports that people appreciate. So I think our audience will enjoy this, mate, even if they've not learned how to revolutionize their game or anything.
I'm not going to be putting out an instructional on BJJ fanatics anytime soon. Don't worry about me. There's not going to be the Elliot Steel instructional. Like, if that's happening, by the way, that's like a con. Do not fucking buy mine. That's get taken down and slammed on your head. The Elliot Steel instructional.
I think that's the title for the thumbnail, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe, mate, yeah.